annular graft for the autoimmune ulcers. Thank you very much, Professor.
We thought that tough cases only happen here in Egypt.
Very nice. We are glad that we have some of our cases also.
Well, anyone who worked with me knows that I am a die-hard fan of femtosecond laser-assisted techniques in most of our surgeries. And the thing is, I do have presentations on femtosecond corneal transplants that are 90 minutes. I do have 60 minutes, I do have 30 minutes, and I'm supposed to wrap it up now in like 9 minutes, so I'll do my best. Slides are not. Yeah. Okay, the disadvantages of the good old manual penetrating keratoplasty when it is indicated is that there's a classic vertical edge-to-edge wound. This requires relatively tight suturing, and when we start doing complex designs, complex architectures with the femtosecond laser, you do not need that much of attention. When you go back and do manual keratoplasty, you discover at the time that the tension that you thought at one point was normal is a little bit over normal. Healing takes at least 1 year. You end up with a high astigmatism. Of course, we all have the cases that ended up with 0.5 diopters of astigmatism, and we love the patient and love the result. But the norm is between 5 to 8 diopters in 3 months, and after suture removal, astigmatism weighs down to 3 to 5 diopters in the best case. Why femtosecond laser? It's ultra-precise cuts, complex designs with perfect sort of Lego-like alignment. You have a perfect fit, you have easier suture, less sutures, less post-operative astigmatism, less cellular invitation, and probably less rate of allograft rejection. This has been proven by Josh Teekman in Canada, in Toronto, and smoother visual rehab. You can do all sorts of shapes with the femtosecond laser. We experimented with a lot of shapes at first, but now everyone resorts to the mushroom shape. You can do DALCs, and when I mean DALC, I mean DALC. It's bearing the duous layer. And you can do superficial telomere keratoplasty, DLX, and T-sex. Designs for femtosecond assisted penetrating keratoplasty. The most famous one is the mushroom design. It's easier for beginners, lowers astigmatism significantly as the donor cornea rests on a shelf. So basically, it gives you the same feeling, well, quite a similar feeling to a DALC, where you actually are putting the cornea on something that is actually, the cornea is resting on a shelf, and then you suture it, not like, the golden hands that you need when you're doing a penetrating keratoplasty to avoid an undermining graft or an overriding graft. And it can be used to perform DALC. This is the mushroom design, and this is a video from back in the day. I started doing femtosecond penetrating keratoplasties in 2011. I never looked back. I rarely use the Trifines now, and this is from 2012. It's 13 years ago, and the ultra-precise cut and the ease of removal of the cornea button is shown here. It's totally different than using a punch. So the only problem is that when you're doing a femtosecond laser, if you do not have a mobile system and you do have the femtosecond laser in a different room than the operating theater, then there's always, the demon inside of us, and we are very, very afraid that you might end up with a leaky anterior chamber, iris prolapse, or something more serious. So what we did at the time I actually published this is that we used to leave 70 microns offset anterior. So it's pretty much mostly epithelium, just a thin film of stroma, if you may. When you go to the OR with this patient, of course, when you're prepping the patient, you tiptoe everything, and when you have just left 70 microns, very, very easy to remove it, and it feels, like a Velcro effect. I just want to show you this. This is a patient where the 70 microns were left, were not cut, and as you can see, you can remove it very handsomely without the need of any sharp instruments. So if you do have a mobile femtosecond platform, I've experimented with many platforms, and I've actually used 1, 2, 3 platforms until this very date. And the one that I use for penetrating keratoplasty is a mobile one, and this really takes a lot of pressure off, because you do this step and then continue with the patient on the same bed, under the same microscope. You do not need when you do this for the 70 microns anterior offset. So what about the top hat design? Back in the day, it was popular because people did not do DMAC, did not do PDEX, and it was only the era of DSEX at the time, not even the ultra-thin DSEX. So implanting a top hat design would implant more endothelial cells in patients that do have endothelial cell dysfunction. Now it's out of the norm, and it's not on vogue now. And the catch point at the time and the complication in doing a top hat design was that if you have a failed cut with the femtosecond laser, it is very challenging to complete the cut with sharps if you do have this design. And this is the top hat design. It is a self-sealing design, so you need less sutures. And again, this is a video from 2012, and you can see how easy you can remove the graft with a top hat cut after femto laser cut. Okay. So you can do femtosecond penetrating keratoplasty a show in hot keratoplasties. Actually, at the time, we published this in cornea, and we presented, I think, back in 2014, our results in the American Society, the ASCRS. And the thing is, the message that we said that if you are going to use a trephine in a melting cornea with an impending rupture due to edesmatocele, sometimes you're afraid that the cornea might pop, so you might be using cyanoacrylate or anything of the sort to plug in the very thin cornea. If you're doing a femtosecond laser, the pressure is much less that you're erasing, and the other thing is that you are applanating the center of the cornea as well. So it can give you a safeguard. I'll just skim through this video very, very rapidly. Again, this was an oldish video. I think it was 2016 or something. So this is the docking, and I'm showing the docking here because I just wanted to show the trainees at the time that you will not get any perforation during the docking itself, and during the docking completed with no perforation. This was the message. And then you remove it, and then business as usual. So we have published this in the cornea, and there's a common misconception that femtos do not cut through opaque cornea. So if you have fibrosis in the cornea, then you cannot do a femto. We have never seen any platform that can, that will stop short of cutting the cornea because the cornea is opacified. And believe me, we do have pretty much opacified corneas here, like the ones that Professor Dua just showed us. So it does cut in every cornea more or less. You can actually do femtosecond penetrating keratoplasties in repeated allograft rejections as well with a very opacified cornea. So can you do a DALC? Because a lot of people, when they think about femtosecond laser and the application of femtosecond laser in that, they think that you're going to do a lamellar cut and you stop short like 100 microns over the Descemet's membrane. And then if you do that, we all know that the femtosecond laser, when you go deeper than 300 microns, you don't get that regular cut as anything else, basically. So no, actually you can do an Almar's big bubble technique with the femtosecond laser. And the problem with doing it manually is that whenever you start learning a DALC early on the learning curve, you sometimes perforate, especially in ectatic corneas, when all the calculations are correct, but you actually find yourself entering the anterior chamber during trephination. So as a response to this, you start doing very shallow trephinations. When you do shallow trephinations, you start getting less and less air bubbles. You get emphysema in the cornea, but you do not get the proper air bubble where you separate the Descemet's membrane. When you do that with a femtosecond laser, especially if you have an OCT in your femtosecond laser, you can actually adjust the stromal cut to stop short like 50 microns over the Descemet's membrane, and then you will get the big bubble each and every time. So it's like, a DALC for dummies. So anyone who is not a very well experienced surgeon who doesn't have hands of gold, he can do a big bubble with the DALC. You can actually do the tunnel itself with the femtosecond laser. This is not available in all platforms, but you can do that. John Mehta has published this repeatedly. He's a big fan of the tunnel. I've tried to do the tunnel with the femtosecond laser. I succeeded sometimes in getting the big bubble from the femtosecond tunnel, but a lot of times I did not, because when you do a talc using the femtosecond laser, you do the lamellar cut, you remove it, and then the tunnel is there. You go inside with your cannula, try to inject air, and the stromal rim over the tunnel is very, very thin, so the air comes back up into your face and it does not separate Descemet's membrane. In our experience, it's not always practical due to air escape from the tunnel roof. Femtosecond nails, you can actually experiment also with different architectures. So my go-to technique now is the femtosecond. Can I just have a slice like this? With the femtosecond laser, I do the mushroom, and as you can see, I'm just gonna run through the video. You go inside the cannula, you inject the air, and each and every time, this is the trocar before the cannula, then the cannula, you inject the air and you get the bubble each and every time. And it's very, very easy and very reproducible. Of course, when you're a seasoned talc surgeon, everything is reproducible, but when you're a novice surgeon, this really helps. So I think in conclusion, femtosecond assisted keratoplasty has been around for some time, is growing steadily and not going anywhere. I believe this is the immediate future for corneal transplantation. And in my hand, it was a definite improvement to my manual techniques, both in the rehab and in the final visual outcomes. And I thank you all for bearing with me.